Hot take, bold take. I think everybody should read the Bible, whether you're spiritual or even if you're atheist, but you just like to learn. Like, it's interesting. I grew up with an ultra Christian stepdad, and then I was sent to a Christian disciplinary boot camp. So I understand religious trauma. I get it. I had it. I understand. But at the same time, I've always been like, philosophical. Like, I've always wondered about the universe. At 16, there was probably about a month where I was like, you know what? I think I'm atheist. None of this shit makes sense. Nobody ever answers my questions. Like, I don't believe in anything. During that time, I was smoking a massive amount of spice. Okay? Suddenly, I started having spiritual downloads. Suddenly, I was understanding, like, just the concept of, like, we are all one. This is all my opinion. God is not, like, some dude, okay? God is, like, the essence of everything. God is, like, the eternal soul that resides in all of us. Like, we are fragments of God's soul. Like, nothing can exist outside of God, okay? 10 years, I built on that. That's my foundation of my spiritual belief. And then I start building on it with, I guess you could say, practices, like learning about manifestation. I use tarot. I love astrology. At some point, I started getting into something called the I Ching, which is a Chinese oracle. It's a book. You toss some coins, and you go to a certain page, and it tells you kind of like what you need to know. And what that book taught me was what it calls being innocent. And what that means is like going with the flow, like taking the path of least resistance. At one point when I was using the I Ching like hardcore was when my life was completely falling apart. And it really just changed my mindset. You're stuck in traffic and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be late for work. There's nothing you can do. You're stuck in traffic. So you can either sit there and be anxious and be like, oh my God, or you can be like, okay, I believe that there's a greater reason for this. Or even if there's not. There's nothing I can do in this moment, so I might as well turn on my radio, sing to some songs that I like, chill out, go with the flow. And when you do that and you have that mindset, like, not only do you become much more calm and you have a much happier life, but like it feels like the universe or God like rewards you. Then I spent my early 20s eating a lot of mushrooms and other things and just like having a lot of like introspection. So by the time I meet my now husband, I had a very good foundation, and it's still the foundation to everything that I believe. My husband spent 2 years in prison when he was 18, before I met him. And during that time, he read the Bible and he read like every other religious text, because when you're in prison, you can request religious text and they'll give it to you for free. So after many years, he finally inspired me to actually pick up the Bible and actually read it. Because he had been telling me about Jesus, and I'm like, okay, like Jesus does sound like a cool guy. So I decided to actually read it, right? And here's what I'm going to show you. Here's what I'm going to show you if you want to read the Bible, and I think you should. Even if you're atheist and not, like, if you're just someone who likes to think about things, even if you know that you will never believe in this, it's worth it. Like, it's interesting, right? And I'm going to give you my personal guide, Here, this is the Bible. This is the only part that like really matters. If you're trying to learn about Jesus, this is the only part that is actually quotes from Jesus. This is actually people walking around with Jesus and writing down what he was saying. This part is before Jesus was ever there, and a lot of that is where the evil is. That is where you will see like anything that's like evil and misogynistic and like homophobic and anything like that, that's over here. That's the Old Testament, okay? It's still really interesting because it's human history, but it's like really violent and it's crazy, okay? It's depressing, it's dark. But when you read Jesus's words, even if you will never believe that he is like a higher dimensional being, even if you just believe that he was like some guy, like a shaman, it's worth reading. He was wise. Like, at the end of the day, at the very least, he was very wise. And everything that he says is about just like being a good person, like just being a decent person. And then if you go over here, like these are people that mean well. It's people that like studied Jesus, and then like a few hundred years later, they're writing their own version of what Jesus was preaching, but like they got the message wrong a lot. Like there's some like things in here that are like cool quotes, but then they'll be like, the women are gonna burn in hell. I'm serious. I think it was Paul. He was like, all those women that were tempting us with their beauty, their hair is gonna burn off and their scalp is gonna have sores. Jesus was a feminist. Jesus would walk up to women in towns where like men would not just go up and talk to a woman because they're like seen as like property, right? Jesus would go right up to women and be like, hey, how do I get to this town or whatever? And people were like, And also, like, with children, he had so much respect for children, and, like, a lot of the men thought he was really weird because the men, like, wouldn't really interact with the children much. That was, like, a woman's job, okay? And Jesus would actually play with the children and let them sit on his lap. Whatever. Anyway, my point is, I believed in, like, New Age spirituality, and I do. Like, I still believe in all of that. And that is, like, the foundation. And then Jesus was, like, the end goal, like, the capstone. I didn't stop believing in all the stuff that I already believed in just because I started believing in Jesus. It actually gave me an idea of what Jesus is. Jesus is like a higher dimensional being. He came here to show us the way, how we're supposed to live. And I will say the only thing that I kind of realized was maybe like a psyop in the New Age spirituality that I believed in. Because I'm telling you, I didn't stop doing tarot. I didn't stop doing any of that stuff, right? The one thing is that New Age spirituality teaches us to be like self-serving. And Jesus like says not to be like that. New Age spirituality tells us like, hey, if someone makes you even like a little bit uncomfortable, cut them off. New Age spirituality is very much like each for their own. Everyone just worry about yourself. You don't have to help other people. You're not obligated to help other people. What Jesus says actually makes a lot more sense if you're trying to make a functional society. I believe that on planets, the end goal, there's entire planets where all of the souls are in harmony and they're kind of like a hive mind, which sounds scary to us, but it's actually the most peaceful state you can be in. It's very much close to like godliness. And that's really like the goal, is to like be one with each other and with God. And that's what Jesus is teaching us to do. He's teaching us like, hey, take the path of least resistance, just like the innocence from the I Ching. This is Christ's conscience, it's innocence. Doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. Jesus was not a doormat. He was a sassy man. For the most part, he's telling us, be kind to each other. It's very rare in life that you need to resist. Someone asks you to help them move, right? It's like, oh, what excuses can I come up with so I don't have to help them move? Just help them move. Just help them move. If you're able, just help them move. Like that sort of thing. You understand? Because that is how we actually progress together, because our souls can only progress so far individually. The progression caps, and you have to be able to merge with other souls. This is my belief. I don't know. Anyway, let me know if that makes any sense. Let me know if I should talk about how I believe that the Old Testament God is Satan. And no, I'm not trying to be edgy. I have proof. There's proof in the Bible. So let me know if you want to hear about that. Or if you just think I'm insane. Let me know.